We got our first NBA schedule rumor, and it might be embarrassing for the Charlotte Hornets already. We'll discuss that, plus continue our journey throughout the Charlotte Hornets history and see who wore each number the best. That's all today on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, so go check us out there as well. If you check us out on YouTube, you can also see the debut of the setup that I have for specifically Locked On Hornets. We gave Friday Every Hornets Boxscore because we talked about the 2019 game, which was fun. Recent history for anybody that is a newbie to the Hornets world. But this is the new setup. A newbie, that's so good. We need to incorporate that somehow. I love it. If you are a newbie and you're new to the, go ahead and get swiggy with it. You can check out the new setup that I have on YouTube. We got basketball cards, all Hornets edition in the background, even if you can't see the details there. A lot of Hornets bobblehead, man. Like, you have a ton of bobbleheads if you cover the Hornets throughout the last 5 years because that's their favorite giveaway. I'm a fan. I just don't know what to do with my Dwayne Bacon wearing a bacon costume bobblehead compared to my Frank Kaminsky Stormtrooper bobblehead. There's just so many of those, and those didn't necessarily make the cut on the display, but they're still here, and I just don't know what to do with them.
The flameouts make for the best bobbleheads. I mean, that's the rule, apparently.
I guess that's true. Speaking of flaming out, man, the Charlotte Hornets, when it comes to having Christmas Day games, they're all the way flamed out. Just not going to get anywhere close to Christmas Day playing basketball. I wonder if the players actually like that. Like, hey, I don't care that the Charlotte Hornets never get a Christmas Day game. I get to spend time with my family at that point. But if you are a Hornets fan wanting to build that tradition and watch a Charlotte game on December 25th, then you have never experienced that. And now you are the only fan to have never experienced that. With this schedule rumor coming out that the Grizzlies received a Christmas Day game, now that means that the Charlotte Hornets are the only franchise to have never played on Christmas Day. Doug, is this a big deal or not?
Well, I mean, it's embarrassing for sure that the Charlotte Hornets are the only franchise, the Charlotte franchise, Bobcats, Hornets, they've never been on Christmas. I think it's not a big deal from any kind of like strategic sense, but it's reflective of the fact that the Hornets as a franchise have not done the things that precipitate getting on Christmas Day, winning playoff series, being a legitimate threat to win a championship, having exciting players. They have an exciting player now, Walker. They have a player that the NBA could legitimately put on national television on Christmas Day in LaMelo Ball, and people would turn out to watch, but they don't have that missing piece, which is what Memphis got. The playoff series win, and then they go and they face the Warriors, and they really, have an intense rivalry series with the Warriors. They don't win that series, but it's enough to vault them into the Christmas Day game.
Yeah, so a little embarrassing because even if you go to the other franchises that have been lackluster for so long now, the Kings come to mind. They at least had that stretch where they can get to a Western Conference Finals. They had the Chris Webber, Doug Christie, Peja years. And so Sacramento, you actually have, I believe that's when they would have played their Christmas Day game, if I'm not mistaken.
So I have I had this graphic from Fadeaway World up on the screen right now, and it's dated because it still has the Grizzlies as never. This was an article from last year, but this is the best graphic I could find.
Well, I like the fact that it's bold, never, all red letters, like it is the word never played a Christmas Day game.
Yeah, so this never for the Grizzlies will turn into 2022. This never for the Hornets may remain. We don't know, right? I mean, we don't know the rest of the Christmas schedule, but I doubt the Hornets are going to be involved. The Kings last played in 2003. That was during their, Divac, challenging the Lakers in the Western Conference. Last time the Hawks were in was 1989.
Wow. Okay.
So it was a long time ago for the Hawks. Detroit Pistons 2005. That was during their kind of title contention. 2004, that's when the last time the Pacers were really relevant as a title team. The Magic, 2011, again, you get Dwight Howard, you get them being in contention for the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's it, right? I mean, that's the Wolves are the really in 27. That's the weird one because I can't think of a legitimate reason why the Wolves. That was just a pity Christmas Day game. So that's my question, Walker. Would you take a pity Christmas Day game at this point? Would you just if the NBA just said, all right, Hornets, fine, you got LaMelo Ball, you're not a relevant team in the Eastern Conference, but here we'll throw you a bone a la the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes, I would take that as a fan. It does not matter. I don't care. Go ahead and give me the freebie because at least I don't have to see that never shining red graphic under the Hornets logo anymore when talking about the teams who have never played a Christmas Day game. If you're asking me if they deserve it, if you're asking if I'm so angry about the Charlotte Hornets having never been given a Christmas Day game, the answer is no. Like, I understand why they haven't played on December 25th. If you're asking me, do you want a freebie? I would say, sure. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and take that freebie so that the Hornets don't have this embarrassing thing around them anymore.
Are you? This is a participation trophy. I'm not into it.
I'm the radio guy, Doug. You can't hand out participation trophies. That's my job. I'm supposed to.
That's what you're doing right now, and I don't appreciate it. I think the Hornets got to earn this one. I mean, to me, this is like the thing that should push this franchise to continue to actually try to go out and win a playoff series. Yeah, people, this is what I'm talking about. Like, people want this team to continuously tank and get worse. And I'm like, look, winning playoff series matter. Even if you're not going to be a team that is a threat to win the entire Eastern Conference, winning playoff series comes with some prestige, and they've had zero prestige for so long. So I hope the Hornets continue to try to go out and put a winning product on the floor and not go in complete reverse, because I would like my child to one day witness the Charlotte Hornets playing on Christmas Day.
Yeah. I hope so. I want that for a better, younger.
And Hornets I don't want a pity game. I don't want to get the pity game out of here, Walker. I want the Hornets to win a playoff series and have a rivalry game on Christmas Day. It won't feel good if the Hornets play the Hawks, in a pity Christmas game. I'm not into that. And plus, Trae Young and LaMelo Ball. Trae Young and LaMelo Ball don't even play well when they play each other, so that wouldn't even be fun.
No, that's fine. Look, I'm glad that you're the parent because you have better morals than I do. You want these kids to earn it, where if I had a kid right now, I'd just give them everything and it would be totally fine. They'd probably be lazy when they grow up. And that's fine with me. Like, right now, I'm okay. Just give me the Christmas Day game. I will say, you look at the logo right next to Minnesota, it's the New Orleans Pelicans. They didn't really do anything to earn that Christmas Day game either, except win the lottery and draft Zion Williamson. That's what got them that Christmas Day game. Because that's the only reason I could see the Pelicans playing.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be in a category with the New Orleans Pelicans and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't like my allies at that point. I want to be a franchise like the Orlando Magic. I can't believe I'm saying I want to be a franchise like the Orlando Magic, but they got a player, and that player took them to an Eastern Conference Finals. And that's what I hope that LaMelo Ball can do. I mean, there's a scenario where they are playing a Christmas Day game in a year or 2 years from now, because LaMelo Ball has ascended into first-team All-NBA territory and is dragging this franchise to Eastern Conference relevancy. I mean, to me, that's the only path for the Charlotte Hornets at this point, is LaMelo Ball becoming so good that he lifts all boats and the Hornets become relevant again. And I think that's where you'll see them play a Christmas Day game.
Plus, the Knicks are just in New York, and that's why they got one in 2018.
Well, of course.
So 3 graphics in a row. Bang, bang, bang. Kind of given to them. I do have one other point, but not before we head on to the next topic. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
I have one more point I want to make about the Memphis Grizzlies in relation to the Charlotte Hornets, why they've been given a Christmas Day game, why the Hornets have not. And then we'll discuss and go through the journey of who the best players to ever wear each number. 55. I think we've gone to 54. We're on 42 now, Doug. Is that right?
We are coming up on number 40. 2.
Okay. All right. Number 42. Great number. We'll get to that in just a moment. But if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. It's covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. They have a light and chewy texture. They have real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories. They have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them as well. So low in calories, low in sugar, but high in protein and high in fiber. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15. Who wore it best? Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So wait a minute. Do we value players that forget plays all of a sudden? I thought we loved LeBron James because he remembered he could cite to you every single play from every game he's ever played in. Now all of a sudden we like players who have no idea what happened on the previous play.
I don't think you want him to play scared, right?
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
One other thing I wanted to mention, I think you kind of brought this up with the Grizzlies. Young, exciting team, get their star with Ja Morant, but then they actually start winning, and they give the Golden State Warriors a test in that playoff series, and then they mix it up on social media. So they kind of check all the boxes, right? Young team, exciting, have a star player that was borderline MVP candidate last year, at least got some recognition. Go against Golden State in that playoff series, give them a ton of trouble, and then mix it up on social media. So good, star players, dramatic, young, and contenders. Not a championship contender, but fun enough. And where the Hornets, they were a league pass team favorite for a lot of different analysts. I remember George Sedano talking about this a couple of years ago when LaMelo was a rookie. And George said, I used to never, ever care about watching the Charlotte Hornets on my league pass screen. And then I made it appointment television. I needed to go watch the Charlotte Hornets. And so we were on our way there. But then this offseason, especially the play-in game, the end of the last regular season, this offseason, it just feels like a lot of the momentum has come to a halt. Miles Bridges provided a lot of that good, positive feelings. And then he gets arrested for a felony domestic violence charge. And LaMelo Ball is the thing that can move the needle, and then that's kind of it. PJ Washington is great here in Charlotte. We love him, but I mean, his defensive ability isn't going to get you a Christmas Day game. And so I think that's the thing that makes the difference here, Doug. The Grizzlies kind of continued to build off of what were some nice foundation pieces, and then they became a contender in the West. And then Charlotte, some of it's been bad luck. But the Charlotte Hornets aren't absolved of a ton of the responsibility, and we just haven't done enough here in the city of Charlotte to warrant one of those Christmas Day games.
Well, and saying that the Memphis Grizzlies are all about Ja Morant, nothing else, would not be correct.
Yeah,
I mean, they play really well without Ja Morant. They have a lot of different pieces over in Memphis. They've done a great job of drafting and player development. But, I mean, the Hornets have as well. They've obviously got to deal with this situation with Miles Bridges, and that's going to stunt a lot of that franchise development, no matter how it turns out. But they do need to continue to have leaps from different players. Like, they just signed Cody Martin to this deal. They need him to get better. They need PJ Washington to get better. They've got to have more internal development from their young players because they simply are not looking outside for that talent. They are betting the farm that the players that they have currently on the roster and that have been and the young players that have been traveling back and forth from Greensboro, they are betting the farm that the drafting that they've done is going to be sufficient because those players are going to develop, because Terry Rozier is as good as he's going to get. And they're betting that LaMelo Ball can get into that MVP conversation at some point, because that would, look, if LaMelo Ball raises his scoring average and maintains his ability to rebound and his assist numbers, then he does ascend into the MVP category. And I think if he does that, it's going to lift the Charlotte Hornets into a new tier. I mean, I think he can, with some of these auxiliary pieces, do that. But does that happen this year or does that happen next year? I think that's the question.
And maybe in a future episode, when we talk about the best jersey numbers ever worn, or the best players to ever wear a jersey number, we could be discussing some of these players. LaMelo Ball is going to be interesting right off the bat, but we still have a long way to go before we get to number 2 and number 1, the jersey number that he switched to this offseason. Doug, 42 is on the docket. Next, who are the players we will be discussing when it comes to who wore it best, number 42?
Before I get to number 42, we should remind folks what the rules are for this segment, and we can go and look back and see who we have so far. So this is who wore it best. We're going through each jersey number in Charlotte Hornets / Bobcats franchise history and deciding who wore that number best. The rules are we can only take into account their time with the Charlotte Hornets and when they wore the number. So when we're looking at the stats, we have to factor in, if they change jersey numbers, it can only apply to that jersey number. So with the rules out of the way, I will head over to the screen share here, courtesy of Basketball Reference helping us out with this. Number 98 goes to Arnaldus Kubica by default because he's the only person to ever wear 98 for the Charlotte Hornets. Chris Douglas Roberts won number 55. Number
Surprising
54
one.
we gave to Lee Nalon. Number 52, the one, the only, Matt Geiger. Number 50, we gave to Emeka Okafor. Number 45 went to the Hammer, Armin Gilliam. And then number 44, we sort of put this as a toss-up between the Gap Man, Kenny Gaddison, and Derek Coleman. And whenever we have a toss-up, we go ahead and toss it to the listeners on our community page on YouTube. We put a poll up, and look at that. Derek Coleman just stealing it, going all the way, 71%, not stealing it, running away with it, really, 71% over Kenny Gaddison at 29%. I did my best, Gap Man. I tried to make the case for you. We should note that Kenny Gaddison did
you
switch
made the case for Derek Coleman. I would don't steal.
I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's correct.
You made the case for Coleman. I said go with Kenny Gaddison.
I think I tried to make that's ridiculous. I think I tried to make the case for Gap Man. But Derek Coleman wins. But we should note that Kenny Gaddison did switch jersey numbers, so he has an opportunity to still make this list.
But he doesn't. I already checked it out when we talked about it. We'll get there, but he really doesn't. There's not a chance.
Spoiler alert. Jeez, come on. Derek Coleman, 44.
Just saying.
And number 43 went to Anthony Tolliver. So now we're here. Number 42, I should say, has 6 players.
And look at the first one is.
Dave Hoopin. We've had Hoppin on the show. Dave Hoppin played from 89 to 91 under the number 42.
We gave Dave Hoopin his only interview he's experienced in the last 20 years. We did that last year or 2 years ago, I believe. Yeah. Great.
Mike Jaminski, who, could get some love here I know we're only taking into account their time with the Hornets, but could we take into account this time with the Hornets as an announcer alongside Steve Martin? Mike Jaminski, 91 to 94. Michael McDonald at 98. I don't know if is that the Michael McDonald?
I think it is. Yeah, dude can hoop.
I love hooping.
Yeah, I wanted you to do that, Bat. I don't have enough confidence to try to give you that impression.
Let's go Hornets.
I'm gonna give that to Michael McDonald.
That's the best Michael McDonald I could do.
It's better than
I could do the rest of the names. Number 42, PJ Brown, 2001, 2002, Sean May, 2006 to 2009, and Theo Radcliffe rounding it out in 2010.
Yeah, love all of it. Love your impression the most. And there's one name that has to jump off the screen more than any outside of the celebrity that is Michael McDonald. PJ Brown has to get this award off the top of the dome, right?
Yeah, I think so. PJ Brown had the most impact defensively. This is one that's not going to jump off the page scoring wise, but he made those late first run Hornets teams competitive as a defender. Those teams won on defense. They were not, even though they had Baron Davis who could, hit threes and dunk. He was a special player offensively. He was like him and Mash were really the only players that were knocking down a ton of shots. So this was a team that was winning on defense, and PJ Brown was part of the anchor. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. 2 seasons in Charlotte. And let's see, scoring, like I said, scoring wise, I mean, he's not even 9 points a game. It was all defense and rebounding.
Yeah, but he was such a key contributor. People loved P.J. Brown playing the 4 alongside Eldon Campbell, who was the starting 5, and just one of the few players that actually was a part of the business between Miami and Charlotte. They did a lot of business with one another. You know, you go back to Alonzo Mourning going to Miami, and then you talk about, you know, the Glenn Rice trade of him, you know, coming over to play for the Charlotte Hornets with that in that era too. Eddie Jones also goes to the Miami Heat. Jamal Mashburn comes back, and PJ Brown also, I believe, a part of that trade. So it's funny how you had a couple of throw-ins like a Matt Geiger, the first trade with the Heat, and then a PJ Brown in the first trade with Miami, or second trade with Miami, that were on this list that we loved so much. And so PJ, just another one of those players.
All right. Well, we got 41 coming up after. I think we should go ahead and do the break and then come back and do 41.
All right. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We have plenty more numbers to get to. Just finished up with P.J. Brown, one of the players that came in a trade from the Miami Heat. Who is going to be the guy who wore number 41 best? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
To start this off, we all know about LeBron and how he built a school and it got a lot of fanfare. By the time 2019 closes, Bismack Biyombo is planning to have 6 schools.
Take that, LeBron.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Number 41. 6 players to wear number 41. This one was going to be pretty easy, although we got another player to mention, but go ahead and name the list of players there, Doug.
We got Tim Kempton, 1989 to 94. I'm not sure Kempton played all of those years. Let me double check that. Yeah, no, it was 88, 89, and then he came back for part of the 93, 94 season. So Glenn Rice, 1996, 98. I think it's going to be tough to beat that name. You got Eldon Campbell at 1999. He switched jersey numbers because I believe he's number 8 as well. So we could only count the 98-99 season. Garrett Temple in 2011 for the Bobcats. Justin Hamilton, 2014. And Billy Hernan Gomez, 2018 and 2019. Yeah, Billy, 41.
Yeah, so
I think this one's pretty clear.
Yeah. Top 5 Hornet of all time, Glenn Rice, probably the most devastating offensive player the Charlotte Hornets have ever put out there. And Kemba Walker and Glenn Rice are probably a couple of those players. But Glenn, if you go and look at his stats,
I'm desperately trying to. If the
I know you are. Basketball Reference is not helping you out. Yeah, look at that 3-year stretch. 3-time All-Star from 95 to 98. Led the league in three-point percentage at 47%. The middle season that he played, but never shot anything less than 42% from 3 playing with the Charlotte Hornets. Did it on decent volume during that time. I believe was top 10 in the MVP voting that year that he shot 47% from 3. Just a devastating offensive player, man. Like I like his reference page is pretty ridiculous when you look at that 3-year stretch, Doug.
And how about the number of games Glenn Rice played throughout his career? So, I mean, we're looking at his first season, 77, then 77, 79, 82, 81, 82 in his final season against Miami. He joined Charlotte, played 79, 79, and then 82 in his final season before moving on to LA. So, I mean, he was Glenn Rice, a little bit of an underrated Iron Man in terms of number of games his first several seasons in the league.
And if you look at the league leaders in minutes played, it was actually Glenn Rice and Anthony Mason, I think, were in the top 5, maybe even top 3. Both of those guys just played a ton.
It's true, and really sort of vaulted them both into All-NBA. I mean, they were great players, but the Hornets relied so much on those two getting out there and playing a ton of minutes and doing a lot on the floor that it helped vault them into All-NBA status. So, yeah, Glenn Rice, pretty automatic, number 41.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say, when we talk about what players would have been better in this era, Glenn Rice was unbelievable in that era. And you talk about now, 2000s, the 3-point ball, the emphasis that's put on it today, Glenn Rice would have been awesome. All right, Doug, let's move on to number 40.
Number 40, I think people are automatically going to think of Cody Zeller, who played for both the Bobcats and the Hornets from 2014 to 2021. But there are also some other interesting names. Brad Miller, how about that, number 40 for the Charlotte Hornets from 1999 to 2000, one of the best undrafted players of all time. Didn't really make any waves in Charlotte, would have to wait to make his all-star appearances with Sacramento and Indiana, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Indiana first, and then goes, I believe, gets a decent contract from Sacramento. But yeah, those are the two teams he had his all-star appearances with.
Now, this guy would get my vote for one of the best names in Charlotte Hornets history, Frank Brakowski. 1994.
Maybe one of the more names that was explaining what was going on for Hornets.
Well, let's see. I don't know. Hold on. You're making a judgment here. We got to find out.
I am.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Let's see what that. I mean, field goal percentage 50%. Also, apparently, I don't know what's going on here with the 3-point attempts. I guess he threw one up as a center. Frank Brakowski, a little ahead of his time in 1994.
A little
averaged
point one, and he was ahead. A regular Glenn Rice was Brakowski.
He played in 28 games in that 93-94 season. Looks like he spent some time in Milwaukee before coming over to Charlotte. Started 6 games at the center position, 10.1 points per game. So a double-digit score in that little short run. So Frank Brakowski, I think you were shortchanging Frank Brakowski a little bit.
What was I? Okay, yeah, I apologize. I should have given more respect to the 28 games that he played here in Charlotte. We're moving on to Lorenzo Williams' basketball reference page. What do we have for Lorenzo Williams? And 2 games that he played.
Yeah, I don't recall much about Lorenzo Williams at all, but he looks like a center power forward, played sometime in 92, 93, and then traveled to Orlando, Boston, back to Orlando, then back to Charlotte. Man, I mean, he was just kind of going all over the place, but only played 1 game in that 93-94 season. So I don't think this is going to be Lorenzo Williams' time.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, so there you go. Those are the names. I think is pretty clearly Cody Zeller is going to win number 40. Brad Miller, we can't count those 2 all-star appearances. Anything you got on Cody Zeller?
Well, this is another name that played for the Bobcats and played for, the Charlotte team that actually got to the playoffs in that, what was it, the second year or the second time that they did so. So the fun game here being there's going to be a surprising number of Charlotte Bobcats to be on this list of who wore it best, because we already have Anthony Tolliver. We had a surprising mention with Chris Douglas Roberts coming in wearing number 55. Now Cody Zeller is on that roster wearing number 40, and pretty easily Cody Zeller is the guy that's going to win this. Yeah, lots of Bobcats are going to be on this list, maybe surprisingly to a few fans listening.
Yeah, obviously he spent most of his time in a Hornets uniform, so I'll throw him up on the graphic as a Charlotte Hornet and not that first year that he came in for the playoff Bobcats, because he only started 3 games his rookie season, but he did play in all 82 of them, and then would get the starting job kind of. Like, that's the interesting thing about Cody. He was always like starter by default, either due to injury or because they didn't really have a big rim protecting center that they always wanted. They could never find that. And so it always went back to Cody Zeller, who was, a great rim running center, could run the floor, wasn't much of a shooter, wasn't very physical as a big, but, could do some things here and there. It was just kind of like an all around sort of player, not somebody that was going to ever dominate.
No, and maybe I would argue he was physical. I just don't know how strong he was, but he was physical. He didn't back down from, I know you always kind of talked about maybe even
his face often got in the way, if that's what you mean. If physical, yes, he was.
He hit the floor.
It's true. I'm not shortchanging Cody. In fact, one of the defining things about the Cody Zeller era was how poorly the Hornets played when he wasn't available. Like, it was just the craziest thing that may have been more reflective of this franchise's lack of center play for so long. But whenever Cody was out, the Hornets would do a lot of losing. because he was somebody that could do multiple things at that position, and they didn't have anyone else that could do multiple things at that position.
All right, before we end the show today, I did want to take care of the next number just because it's just one player. Well, let's just get to 39 before we move on to 35 so we don't have to lead off the show with Tom Tolbert tomorrow.
Number 39, that was always my number, by the way, when I would be in like a pickup league, one of these like church leagues or whatever. I would always go 39 because I grew up in Gastonia, and I think this was the same for Charlotte, but like the cable channel for ESPN was 39.
Oh, yeah.
So I always threw on the 39 as a tribute to all my highlight ability that would be on the top 10 ESPN. But yeah, 39, Tommy Tolbert, 1995.
I wonder how long he played for the Hornets. I'm not sure how long he played. I know he was a Warrior for a little while, but that's only
his first season.
Yeah,
his first season he spent with the Hornets 88-89, which was the inaugural Hornets season, and then his final season. So a little bookend game for Tommy Tolbert.
Yeah, weird.
88-89, and then 94-95 was his final season in the league. 10 games played, 1.4 points per game at the power. He was kind of it looks like a 3-4 combo, kind of maybe a little bit of a tweener. 6'7", 235. No, he's a stout boy at 6'7".
Yeah.
His nickname was Fabian. I want to know what that. Tommy told me. I'm a little scared to do a little Tommy Tolbert image search.
Yeah, a little scary if you're going to search that on YouTube. Also had a career in TV, by the way, for a little bit. Tom Tolbert did.
Okay, here we go. Tommy Tolbert. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Maybe he was just Fabian. Maybe it was just a tribute to his boyish good looks. Tommy Tolbert.
All right. So is this a who wore it bust or best? Are we going to give him the best title for only playing 25 games?
No, he wore it best.
No?
He wore it. It's kind of a winner by default situation.
Yeah, I like your defense of that. Look, he wore it. That was.
He did it.
That's why he wore it best.
That's my number. I love that.
All right, there you go. Doug Branson, Tom Tolbert.
Tommy Tolbert.
All right, they are the ones who wore it best.
TT. Tommy T.
That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now go check out Locked On NBA. It's your daily 30-minute update on everything taking place within the association. You can catch it anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube, by the way. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back with you tomorrow.